So pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting will be conducted by remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access this meeting via virtual means. Participants may access this meeting through the remote meeting link as posted on the meeting agenda and through the town's online calendar. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by raising their hands or otherwise signaling their intents to speak and be recognized by the chair. This meeting will be recorded. Please take care to mute your microphone unless you've been recognized by the chair. We will now confirm attendance of members. Please respond with present if you are on this call. Rob Benson.
Present.
Elise Mielowski. I don't see Elise yet. Lucia Lopez.
Present.
Michael King. I believe Rob said he would not be here. All right, Parker Happ.
Present.
Vikasith Prati.
Present.
Amna Dewan. She's on.
Present.
Okay. Peter Mimo.
Present.
And Matthew Vranka, myself, is present. Staff, John Gelsich.
Present.
And Lori St. John.
Present.
Okay. Tablet just went to sleep. So I think Rob had a plan for the meeting. Was it not going in agenda order? You want to open the public hearing?
No, I would start with the administrative items, the open
Okay.
space. I think it's the OSPC. We need to appoint a liaison, and I think there's maybe meeting minutes to approve, and then I'd go into the Bay Path Humane Society hearing.
Sure. So appointing the planning board representative to the Open Space Preservations Committee. Rob or John, who's going to be best to speak to this?
So our prior liaison for the past many years was Jane Moran, and obviously Jane is no longer on the planning board. I don't have a good at a high level. I know what that committee discusses. It talks about preserving open space. Their meetings, I think, are once a month. John, I don't know if you have any more details about that.
No, nothing really more. The meetings are, I don't know when the frequency is, but they are regular and then as needed. If purchase of open space is necessary or they have to take any votes on any of that kind of stuff. But I think it's relatively a light lift compared to other committees.
And so this is expected to be a member of the planning board, or is there?
Yes.
More? Okay.
Looks like Elise just hopped on, just for the record.
Hi guys, sorry I'm late.
Hi, Elise. Thank you. So we're just going through the administrative items. Rob is in the car, so I'm running the meeting right now, although Rob is mostly able to communicate back and forth. We just don't want to crash into anything on the way. So we're on the administrative items number 1, appointing a planning board representative to the Open Space Preservation Committee. I guess I'll open up to, is there anybody on the board that is really interested in being a member of the open liaison to the Open Space Committee, or actually a representative to the Open Space Preservation Committee?
I don't mind doing it. If I'm new, but I don't mind.
Do you think there's a lot of benefit there, especially as there's a lot of overlap in some of the meetings and some of the things that come before us in terms of impact on open space? So definitely. Is there anybody else that's interested? Otherwise, I think this might be a pretty easy appointment. Okay. So I would entertain a motion to appoint Amna Dewan as the planning board representative to the Open Space Preservation Committee.
So moved.
So, second, Rob.
All right. So I have a motion and a second. I think was Vic the motion?
Yes.
And Rob was the second. So I need to pull up the list of names again, make sure I go and get everybody. Barring Any discussion? Rob, how do you vote? How do you vote?
Yes, thank you, Amina.
Elise,
Yes.
Lucia,
Yes.
Michael? Not here, right? Parker?
Yes.
Vikasith?
Yes.
Amna? I assume that was a yes.
Yes.
You're muted. Okay.
Yeah.
Peter?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Moving on to minutes. I only saw minutes for May 19th. Is that accurate, John?
Correct. June 2nd has not been completed yet.
Okay. So are there any amendments or modifications that anybody wanted to make to the minutes for May 19th? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written.
So moved. Rob.
Second.
All right, so that was Rob with the motion, Lucia with the second. Rob, how do you vote?
Yes.
Elise,
Yes.
Lucia,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Vikasith,
Yes.
Amna,
Yes.
Peter?
Just, I wasn't on the board. I wasn't at the meeting. I don't know if that matters, but I guess yes.
I believe that it's still fine to vote on that, although John can correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm also a yes.
Yep. Sorry, through the chair. It doesn't matter if you're on the board or even at the meeting. All you're doing is voting that the board the board is confirming that those minutes are correct. So you don't have to have been on the board when the minutes were actually taken to vote. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the Bay Path Animal Shelter hearing. This one's already open. John, I believe we've got feedback from the town's peer review, but and there are some open questions. Is that still the state of that?
So we got a new letter last Friday, and I can bring it up.
Yeah, if you want to give us the town's.
Everything was closed out, but there were some proposed conditions.
Okay, I thought
Not
there was something
added.
about the dimensions of the basin. Was that resolved?
I believe so. So I can go through the actual memo. So 1 has been addressed, 2 has been addressed, 3 has been addressed, 4 has been addressed. So this is one of the things that the board has to make a decision on about the protected trees. 6 has been addressed, 7 has been addressed, 8 has been addressed, 9 has been addressed, 10 has been addressed. I'm sorry, 11 has been addressed. Where's 10? There's 10. 11 has been addressed. 12 has been addressed. 13, no response. Yeah, does not apply. 14 has been addressed. No response on 15. 16, standard has been met. Comment has been addressed. 17, comment has been addressed. Comment has been addressed. I believe that one might be the only thing. So that's the only action that the board might have to take, is just to making that determination on the tree protection.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me? Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
I apologize. I was muting myself. Yes. Can you?
I'm Kevin Quinn with Quinn Engineering. We're here on behalf of Bay Path Humane Society. I'd be happy to summarize what has taken place on that, if it's helpful to the board.
Yeah, if you want to give us an update of where we're at from your point of view.
Chris Keenan of Quinn Engineering was in front of the board April 28th and made the presentation on the project. Shortly after that, in May, we got the letter from Ty and Bond. We've had a few back and forths, and as John said, the technical issues have all been resolved to the satisfaction of Ty and Bond per their letter. There is the comment 5, which is on page 3 of the letter. It notes that the board has discretion to protect trees 10 inches in diameter or larger on the site. And I don't know the will of the board on that, but I'd like to take a minute, if I could, just to summarize what we see on this. First of all, the site was previously mined for sand and gravel. So the trees on the site are relatively young. There's no old growth trees on the site to speak of. The only trees that are scheduled for removal here are trees that are necessary for the project, to accommodate the project. So there's no tree removal proposed in this plan that goes outside the perimeter of the project, if it were. We would respectfully suggest, I think it would be to the interest of Bay Path Humane Society for the board to not require us to do an inventory, if you will, of trees on site, but that is something the board can request or ask them to mark trees on site that are 10 inches diameter or larger.
Do you have on the map which set of trees are under question for being removed here? Is that something we have?
If I may, our plan shows, it identifies the tree line, but it doesn't identify individual trees are not picked up in the survey. That's fairly standard for a site survey this type.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to cover in the peer letter or respond to before we open up to the board for comment?
I'm aware of nothing, but I'm happy to answer questions of the board.
Okay. In that case, I'll open up to the board for any comments or questions anybody has, either on the peer review or the proposed. John, I presume this would be a waiver for the trees, or this just be a decision on our side?
Yeah, it would be a decision if the waiver was even needed, and if they believe that if you all believe the waiver would be needed, then the applicant would be requesting a waiver, and then you would have to decide if you'd want to grant it. Okay.
So open up to the board. If anybody has any questions, either in the peer review or want to discuss the tree issue.
Through the chair, Matthew, this is Rob.
Yeah, Rob.
So from my point of view, this is something us as a board should consider that would require. This is kind of a unique situation where the whole project is on land, which is where this comes up. This requirement comes up because it's town land, but the town sent out an RFP for an applicant to basically utilize the land so the town could generate some revenue from this. In terms of a lease of the land. So I look at this as really a unique situation where I would be okay not requiring the applicant to inventory the trees, mark the trees that are 10 inches in diameter for that reason.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments? I'll open up to the public for any comments from the public as well. If anybody wants to raise a hand.
To the chair.
Yes. Lucia.
I did have a question unrelated to the waiver. There are several site plans in our packet. They're all labeled March 21, 2025. And I know that the site plan's been revised several times. I don't know if there is an updated date on those. I just was thinking in terms of the process to make sure it's the right one.
Yeah, I see that even though the file names have like June 6th, the dates are still March 21st. John, is there comment on that?
So the plans you're talking about?
The plans,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so I've brought up the plans here. And what they do is, so the plans are dated March, whatever it is, but then we go by this revision date.
Okay.
And that's the most recent. So the most recent we have is from June 9th. So that was probably just a typo on my part. Or that's actually that's probably a typo on my part, but That's usually what we do is follow the most revised date. So when we actually write the decision, it'll say, and you'll see it in the comment or in the conditions.
As of date, June, is it June
Yeah.
9th or June 6th?
Dated March 3rd or March 21st, 2025, last revised, and then that date.
June 9th. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So on the subject of the trees, for those of us that were on the site walk, I think we looked around as well, and most of them were fairly junior trees. So that was something that I think a lot of us saw. Does anybody have any concerns with either requiring, like, do people have opinions on whether a waiver would be required in the situation, or we think that this is I mean, John, do you have an opinion on whether a waiver would make sense here, or whether it's just
I don't have an opinion.
don't have an opinion? Trying to find the exact terminology. This is up to the discretion of the board, right? So it's not requiring a
So-
waiver.
Through the chair, if I don't remember this ever being an issue on any other stormwater management
Yeah.
permit or site plan, so it's usually not a big deal.
So how's the board feel? Should we just take a straw poll? Does anybody have objection to, anybody have concerns that we either need a waiver or have objections to clearing the trees in general?
No objections to clearing the trees in general. I think, as Robert outlined, this is pretty in line with what the town wants.
And John, the question about the lighting plan was resolved also, or did that need a condition? I remember that in a previous letter, I think.
Yeah, so if it was a previous letter, then it had been resolved.
Okay.
But I don't know specifically what the resolution of that was. I'd have to look.
Okay, there's going to be sent under separate cover if I recall, so that probably got resolved. All right. So any other discussions from the board, or do we feel like we are ready to talk about conditions and findings? Hearing none. Next step here would be to read the conditions, right, John?
Yes, but just want to, on your previous comment, that was comment 3, and it looks like it has been resolved for the lighting plans.
Thank you. So this is section. All right, so I'm trying to scroll all right, so proposed findings is the first step. And correct my memory here, I read the findings, then we and read the conditions, and we vote on the findings, vote on the conditions.
Yes, you can. I'm going to try and pull them up so everyone can see them.
Thank you. So the section 2.9, proposed findings, first the major site plan. That the proposed major project site plan conforms to the site plan standards as described in section 210, 136.1 of the zoning bylaws. And then proposed findings for the stormwater management permit in 2.9.2 is that the proposed work will comply with the Hopkinton stormwater regulations. And moving on to conditions. Did we decide June 9th was the right date here?
For the date of the plan?
Yeah, for the last
Yes.
revised. Okay.
Yes, and the stormwater report should also have last revised June 9th.
Okay. All right, so proposed conditions, major project site plan, this is 2.10.1. Administrative pre-construction. The proposed development shall be constructed as depicted and on and consistent with the approved materials, unless these materials are required to be amended or modified as part of this decision, which includes A, Plans entitled Site Plan of Land in Hopkinton, Massachusetts, Bay Path Humane Society Animal Shelter Plans, dated 3/21/25, last revised June 9th, 2025. And B, Stormwater Report dated March 21st, 2025. The Director of Municipal Inspections inspects
Chair.
projects.
Add the last
Sorry,
revised June 9th for the stormwater report as well, because they gave us a revised stormwater report.
Yep, thank you. And the Stormwater Report dated 3/21/25, last revised June 9th, 2025. 2. The Director of Municipal Inspections inspects projects under construction for compliance with the approved decision of site plan review. This includes the driveway/roadway and infrastructure construction shown on the plan, if applicable. If the Director of Municipal Inspections determines at any time before or during construction that a registered professional engineer or other such outside professional is required to assist with the inspections of the stormwater management system or any other component of the site plan, the applicant shall be responsible for the cost of these inspections. 3. The applicant/developer shall provide the principal planner with a project point of contact and contact information prior to the issuance of a building permit. The point of contact information shall be kept current through correspondence to the principal planner until the final certificate of occupancy is issued or construction is otherwise considered complete. 4. A completed signed construction management plan shall be submitted to the planning board prior to the commencement of any site work. The applicant shall also submit a complete, final, revised plan set which incorporates all of the modifications made during the public hearing process and any required in this decision. 5. A completed, signed, long-term operation and maintenance plan shall be submitted to the planning board prior to the commencement of construction. This can be combined with a construction management plan if preferred by the applicant. 6. A signed illicit discharge statement shall be provided to the planning board prior to construction. 7. The planning board shall receive a sign-off confirming that the site contractor and any major subcontractors have received the construction management plan prior to the commencement of any site work. 8. The applicant shall receive confirmation from the design review board that design of the building and landscaping of the site is appropriate and acceptable prior to the issuance of a building permit. Construction period. 9. All construction activities shall adhere to applicable local, state, and federal laws and regulations regarding noise, vibration, dust, sedimentation, and the use of, interference with, or blocking of town roads. 10. The applicant shall be responsible for mitigating all construction-related impacts, including erosion, siltation, and dust control. The applicant shall maintain all portions of any public way used for construction access free of soil, mud, or debris deposited due to use by construction vehicles associated with the project, and shall regularly sweep such areas as directed by the Director of Municipal Inspections in consultation with the Department of Public Works Director. 11. The applicant shall regularly remove construction trash and debris from the site in accordance with good construction practice and the construction management plan. No tree stumps, demolition material, trash, or debris shall be burned or buried on the site. 12. If construction has not commenced within 3 years of the date of filing of the site plan decision with the town clerk, approval shall be automatically rescinded unless such time is extended by the board. For the purposes of this condition, the term commenced shall mean the commencement of site work. 13. Construction may occur only between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and Saturdays between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. pursuant to Chapter 141, Article 1 of the Town of Hopkinton General Bylaws. 14. Erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be implemented during the construction period in accordance with the approved site plan and the construction management plan. If they are found to be inadequate, the applicant shall immediately correct any deficiencies. Post-construction/ongoing. 15. All exterior lighting within the development project, whether shown on the approved site plan or required by Massachusetts State Building Code, shall be shielded, directed downward, and not upward or outward, and shall not spill onto adjacent property. 16. All fixed mechanical equipment on the site shall be screened from the view from the ground. Such screening shall be sufficient in the opinion of the Director of Municipal Inspections. 17. The applicant shall submit final as-built plans to the planning board prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. This as-built submission shall include an as-built drawing that depicts the as-built mean grade and the elevation of the highest point of the roof. This plan shall be stamped by the registered land surveyor, by a registered land surveyor, sorry. 18. The applicant shall provide the principal planner with an as-built plan prior to issuance of the certificate of occupancy for the facility. All right, and moving on to the stormwater management permit in 2.10.2. Administrative / pre-construction. 1. The proposed development shall be constructed as depicted on and consistent with the approved materials unless these materials are required to be amended or approved as part of the decision, which includes plans entitled Site Plans of Land in Hopkinton, Massachusetts, Bay Path Humane Society Animal Shelter Plans, dated 3/21/25, last revised 6/9/25. And Stormwater Report, dated 3/21/25, last revised 6/9/25. 2. A minimum of 7 days prior to the start of construction, a detailed construction sequence shall be submitted to the principal planner by the site contractor for review and approval. The approval construction sequence shall be followed throughout the course of the construction and shall be altered only with prior review by and written approval from the principal planner. A signed copy of the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, SWPPP, shall be provided to the board prior to the building permit per chapter 6.0.k.2. The SWPPP must include the signed notice of intent and approval letter. Construction period. 4. All erosion and sediment controls shall comply with the following performance criteria. A. Minimize total area of disturbance and protect natural features in soil. B. Sequence activities to minimize simultaneous areas of disturbance. Mass clearings and grading of the entire site shall be avoided. C. Minimize peak rate of runoff in accordance with the Massachusetts stormwater standards. D. Minimize soil erosion and control sedimentation during construction, provided that prevention of erosion is preferred over sedimentation control. Divert uncontaminated water around disturbed areas. E. Maximize groundwater recharge. F. Install and maintain all erosion and sediment control measures in accordance with the manufacturer's specifications and good engineering practices. G. Prevent off-site transport of sediment. H. Protect and manage on and off-site material storage areas, overburden and stockpiles of dirt, burrow areas, or other areas used solely by the permitted project are considered as part of the project. Comply with applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations, including waste disposal, sanitary sewer or septic systems regulations, and air quality requirements, including dust control. J. Prevent significant alteration of habitats mapped by the Massachusetts Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program as endangered, threatened, or of special concern, estimated habitats of rare wildlife and certified vernal pools, and priority habitats of rare species from the proposed activities. K. Institute interim and permanent stabilization measures which shall be instituted on a disturbed area as soon as practicable, but no more than 14 days after construction activity has temporarily or permanently ceased on that portion of the site. L. Properly manage on-site construction and waste materials. M. Prevent off-site vehicle tracking of sediments. N. Dust shall be controlled at the site. O. Divert off-site runoff from highly erodible soils and steep slopes to stable areas. 5. The project shall comply with the following erosion and sediment control requirements. A. Prior to any land disturbance activities commencing on the site, the developer shall physically mark limits of no land disturbance on the site with tape, signs, or orange construction fence so that workers can see the area to be protected. The physical markers shall remain in place until a certificate of completion has been issued. B. Appropriate erosion and sediment control measures shall be installed prior to soil disturbance. Measures shall be taken to control erosion within the project area. Sediment in runoff water shall be trapped and retained within the project area. Wetland areas and surface waters shall be protected from sediment. C. Sediment shall be removed once the volume reaches 1/4 to 1/2 the height of a hay bale. Sediment shall be removed from the slit fence prior to reaching the load-bearing capacity of the silt. Sediment shall be removed from the silt fence prior to reaching the load-bearing capacity of the silt fence, which may be lower than a quarter to half the height. D. Sediment from the sediment traps or sedimentation ponds shall be removed when design capacity has been reduced by 50%. E. Soil stockpiles must be stabilized or covered at the end of each workday. Stockpile side slopes shall not be greater than 2-to-1. All stockpiles shall be surrounded by sediment controls. F. Disturbed areas remaining idle for more than 14 days shall be stabilized with seeding, wood chips, bark mulch, tarpaulins, or any other approved methods. G. For active construction areas such as borrow or stockpile areas, roadway improvements in areas within 50 feet of a building under construction, a perimeter sediment control system shall be installed and maintained to contain soil. H. A tracking pad or other approved stabilization method shall be constructed at the entrance/exit points of the site to reduce the amount of soil carried onto roadways and off the site. What's the right location here, John? This isn't Wilson and Cedar, right? Do we have something we want there?
Sorry, what was the question?
Fruit Street.
Wilson and Cedar Street are here again. Do we
Oh
want
my goodness, I keep
Fruit
on.
Street or?
I feel like I change this every time and then it still pops up. It would be Fruit Street and Prattway. Oh no, they're not connecting Prattway, just Fruit Street. Intersection
Fruit
of
Street?
Prattway and Fruit Street, yeah.
Okay. All right, resuming the conditions. Fruit Street in the vicinity of the project shall be swept as needed throughout the construction process. I. Permanent seeding shall be undertaken in the spring from March through May and in late summer and early fall from August to October 15th. During the peak summer months and in the fall after October 15, when seeding is found to be impractical, appropriate temporary stabilization shall be applied. Permanent seeding may be undertaken during the summer if plans provide for adequate mulching and watering. J. All slopes steeper than 3-to-1, H to V 33.3%, as well as perimeter dikes, sediment basins, or traps and embankments must, upon completion, be immediately stabilized with sod, seed, and anchored straw mulch, or other approved stabilization measures. Areas outside of the perimeter sediment control system must not be disturbed. Temporary sediment trapping devices must not be removed until permanent stabilization is established in all contributory drainage areas. L. All temporary erosion and sediment control measures shall be removed after final site stabilization. Disturbed soil areas resulting from the removal of temporary measures shall be permanently stabilized within 30 days of removal. We're on to 6, right? Yeah. 6. All required stormwater pollution prevention plan, SWPPP, stormwater construction site inspection reports shall be submitted to the principal planner within 14 days of each inspection. 7. An adequate stockpile of erosion control materials shall be on site at all times for emergency or routine replacement and shall include materials to repair or replace silt fences, hay bales, stone filters, berms, or any other devices planned for use during construction. 8. Soil testing and excavation of the site's stormwater basins must be observed by the board's engineer prior to laying loam and seed. The applicant/developer shall notify the principal planner at least 48 hours, weekends and holidays excluded, prior to the soil testing and/or excavation to allow for adequate time to coordinate these observations. 9. All stormwater basins must be cleaned once the site is stabilized. All stormwater basins shall be cleaned prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. All right. Any questions, comments, or concerns from the board after having read through all that? In which case, I think I can hand this over to Rob, sorry, if you want to continue the meeting, unless there's going to be an issue with the fact that I read through that. And then hand it
No,
over.
I think that's fine. Thank you, Matthew. That was that was a lot. That was a lot to read through. So I think what I'd like to do is, we're on 2.12, the motions. I'd like to entertain a motion that the board accept and approve the findings as previously read aloud for the major project site plan application by the Vice Chair Matthew.
So moved.
Thanks, Parker.
Second.
It was Elise and Lucia. I don't know who beat who out.
I heard Elise.
All right. Roll call vote. Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Parker Happ,
Yes.
Vikasath Prati,
Yes.
Elise Mayalowski,
Yes.
Peter Mimo,
Yes.
Amna Dewan,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is a yes. All right. We're on to 2.12.1.2, stormwater management permit. So I'd like to entertain a motion that the board accept and approve the findings as previously read aloud for the stormwater management permit application by the Vice Chair Matthew.
So moved.
Thanks, Parker.
Second.
Thanks, Elise. All right, roll call vote. Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Parker Happ,
Yes.
Vikasath Prati,
Yes.
Elise Mayalowski,
Yes.
Peter Mimo,
Yes.
Amna Dewan,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is a yes. All right, we're coming to the end here. The approval. I'd like to entertain a motion that the board approve the major project site plan with the following conditions as they were previously read aloud by the Vice Chair Matthew.
So moved.
Thanks, Parker.
Second.
Thanks, Elise. A roll call vote. Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Parker Happ,
Yes.
Vikasath Prati,
Yes.
Elise Mayalowski,
Yes.
Peter Mimo,
Yes.
Amna Dewan,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is a yes. All right. Section 2.12.2.2. I'd like to entertain a motion that the board approve the stormwater management permit with the following conditions as they were previously read aloud by the Vice Chair Matthew.
So moved.
I think that turned out to be Parker and Vic, maybe?
Yes.
All right. Roll call vote. Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Parker Happ,
Yes.
Vikasath Prati,
Yes.
Elise Mayalowski,
Yes.
Peter Mimo,
Yes.
Amna Dewan,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is a yes. All right. Before we close the public hearing, John, is there do we need to come down and sign this, or can you sign this? What's the story?
You will need to come and sign it.
Okay.
The chair.
All right. Just me though.
Yeah, I'll draft it. And then deadline is June 23rd for the stormwater management permit. So we should have enough time. I'll draft it hopefully this week, and then I'll let you know, though we are closed on Thursday for the holiday.
Okay.
That's something
All right.
to keep in mind.
All right. All right. So thank you. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing for the Bay Path Humane Society and stormwater management permit hearing.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All right. Roll call vote. Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Parker Happ,
Yes.
Vikasath Prati,
Yes.
Elise Mayalowski,
Yes.
Peter Mimo,
Yes.
Amna Dewan,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is a yes. All right. On to agenda item number 3 on our outline. I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing for minor project site plan at 5 Parkwood Drive, Revity Health Sciences.
So moved. Second.
All right. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Parker. Roll call vote. Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Parker Happ,
Yes.
Vikasath Prati,
Yes.
Elise Mayalowski,
Yes.
Peter Mimo,
Yes.
Amna Dewan,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is a yes. All right. Do we have the applicant on, or someone to speak on the behalf of the applicant?
Yeah, hi, Scott Richardson with Gorman Richardson Lewis Architects.
All right. Hey, Scott, if you'd like to give us an introduction to what is looking to be done, that would be terrific.
Sure. And I think a couple people from Revity are on the line as well. So yeah, as per the application, the Revity is
Tyler Owens is on as well. Sorry, guys, I got the little one here.
Yeah, Tyler Owens is a global facilities manager for Revity.
Okay.
Yep. So as per the application, Revity is proposing to do quite a bit of renovations at both Building 1 and Building 2. The more significant renovations and lab fit outs are in Building 2. And so, which necessitates some additional ground mounted HVAC equipment and some additional rooftop mounted HVAC equipment. Interestingly, the ground mounted equipment is actually being located in former paved parking area where we're basically going to be removing some pavement, installing some concrete slabs and some stone. So we're actually increasing some pervious area, as you can see in the site plan, towards the back off of Atwood Drive. And interestingly, again, this is in the buffer zone. So the applicant has applied to Conservation Commission. They've had their initial meeting and initial findings, and they have a subsequent meeting tomorrow evening. So it's basically in front of the planning board for the installation of this ground-mounted equipment, as well as the rooftop exhaust systems, which again are not insignificant, but we believe that since they are not too visible from public ways, the front of the building and the side of the building on Elm Street, and the most visible part is this equipment in the back, which is basically off of Atwood Drive, which is primarily kind of an industrial drive that accesses the business off of it. There are some renderings in the package that do show the equipment and so on. Interestingly, the other aspect is the parking. So if you go to view number 1, you'll see this is kind of going down Parkwood Drive. The building in question is on the left, which we're looking at here. And you can just see there's about a 6-foot rise to the front door from Parkwood. And then you do see one or two of the exhausts there in between, kind of towards the center of the picture, that do stick up a little bit above the roof. Above the roof line. They would be extending about 16 feet, I believe, above the main roof, but because of where they're located, really set back from the front of the building, well over 100 feet, this is about what you'd be seeing. View 2, if you scroll down 1, is the view off of Elm Street, which is there's a loading area there for Revity, and you can just see a couple of the exhaust equipment just peeking above the roof, kind of again in the center of the rendering. The next rendering shows a view from Atwood. This is the ground-mounted equipment that then has ducts that do extend up to and extend over the roof. So this is the larger equipment, and for a variety of reasons, we're locating them on the ground because it is really kind of the best location for these pieces of equipment. And then this is the existing loading area for Revity at this location, additional loading. And then the last view is as you would drive further down Atwood, you'd have a view looking back at the ductwork that's extending up on the roof. The other thing that the ground mounted equipment is also displacing some parking air spaces. But interestingly, in the original approval for the project back in 2012, where we did additions to both buildings and renovations, we did get a waiver for parking at that time. And basically, given the use of the building as a lab space and research and development, the number of occupants was far below what the bylaws were requiring. So we did get a waiver for parking for future, basically saying if we need this parking, we can build it. So the original parking on the site was 488 spaces. Based on the use of the building now and the lab requirements and the occupancy and the current parking regulations, based on the square footages for both buildings and the use of the buildings, we actually only are required to have 433 parking spaces. Revity anticipates upon full occupancy in about a year and a half after the renovations are completed, we'll still have about 300 occupants in occupying both buildings. So we did have 488 spaces on site. We are losing 14 to install this ground mounted equipment. So we will end up with 474 parking spaces, which is still 40 spaces more than is required under the current bylaw. There are no changes to any curb cuts, no changes to any driveways, no changes to any site lighting. Again, this does not affect any stormwater management system that's currently in place from the 2012 project. So it's strictly a reduction in parking, which still complies with your current bylaws, and rooftop and ground mounted HVAC equipment.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Scott. John, would you like to give us a staff report of this project?
Sure. So this is a minor site plan due to the alteration of a parking area and with the work being visible from a public or private street. Otherwise, this probably wouldn't be going before the planning board. So very minor. We didn't even reach out to an engineer to review it. There's really nothing for an engineer to review. So it's really just up to the board to decide if it meets the site plan standards and go from there.
And it's triggering it because it's viewable from a public way, fundamentally.
It's public or private, so
public or private way.
It's viewable.
All right.
From
So
way.
Okay. Does everybody on the board understand this isn't that like industrial or like the buildings that are behind the All Town Fresh, in that section, that's where these buildings are. Does anyone feel a site walk is necessary in this instance? I'm of the mindset this wouldn't warrant a site walk, unless anybody feels strongly otherwise.
I agree. I don't think we need a sidewalk.
Does anybody have any initial questions for the applicant? Or otherwise, I'm going to try to get right into the hearing, follow our outline. Matthew, go ahead.
Not for the applicant, I don't think, but I think for John, I'm just confirming that because the parking lot is actually shrinking, the EVSE requirements don't come into play here. Is that accurate?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, through the chair, is that electric vehicle charging requirement you're saying?
Yeah, in the past couple of years, we as a town added bylaw language to require electrical vehicle spaces or EV ready spaces, but because this isn't a new project, that requirement is not there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Revity has installed some EV charging stations on site.
Okay, good to know.
So actually, through the chair, it does not trigger a site plan because of the parking lot. It only triggers site plan because the mechanical equipment is viewable from the public right of way or the private right of way. So because it doesn't trigger site plan review due to the parking lot, then the EVSE requirement does not get triggered.
Okay, thanks you for the clarification. I'm looking at comment number section 3.6.2. It says the proposed location of the ground mounted mechanical equipment appears to be where some portion of the stormwater management system is located. I'm not sure what to do with this comment.
Where did that comment come from?
In our agenda, there's from the Director of Municipal Inspections. It says the proposed location of the ground mounted mechanical equipment appears to be where some portion of the stormwater management system is located. Note the screenshot showing roof drainage terminates into a culvert. The location appears to either eliminate or and his other comment was the proposed location appears to be in the existing path of an exterior door, which may be serving as required means of egress.
Yeah, I can address, I haven't seen those comments, but I can address those if you'd like.
Sure.
Yeah. So at this point, there are, relative to the first item, relative to stormwater management, there is no existing under parking stormwater management system at the location that we're installing this equipment. It is strictly a additional, there's parking area back there. There is a basketball hoop back there. But we're basically just, again, going to be removing the pavement there, installing gravel in between the concrete slabs for the HVAC equipment, and all drainage that's existing, which is not in this location, remains intact. The other item, again, so we're not really, we're not negatively impacting any runoff or drainage in this location. There is an exit door. There are actually two doors, one off of the warehouse that will remain in place and will provide egress from the warehouse, and this equipment will not impede that current egress. And then there is another egress that's off near the loading dock doors that will also remain in place and will not be impeded by this new equipment. I forget what the other item was.
No, those are the two, is the stormwater and the egress. Matthew, did you have a question? Or
Yeah, I was just before that. I was just going to say that it sounds like from Mr. McWhite's email that just needs to be clarified as part of the building permit submission, unless John has other information towards that.
Yeah, we'll have a full site plan as part of the building permit application.
all right. Does anyone on the board have any other comments or questions? John, do I need to read sections 3.7? I can just go right to the findings, correct?
You don't need to read 3.7. Yeah, you can just go to the findings and then the conditions.
All right, excellent. So section 3.9, proposed findings. The proposed minor project site plan conforms to the site plan standards as described in section 210-136.1 of the zoning bylaws. Proposed conditions. So section 3.10.1. So let me read through this. Administrative pre-construction. Number 1, the proposed development shall be constructed as depicted on and consistent with the approved materials. unless these materials are required to be amended or modified as part of this decision, which includes plans entitled Revity Project Maple, 5 Parkwood Drive, Hopkinton, Mass. 01748, prepared by CNE Civil Works New England, dated 5/5/25, last revised on 5/15/25. Number 2, the Director of Municipal Inspections inspects projects under construction for compliance with the approved decision of site plan review. This includes the driveway, roadway, and infrastructure construction shown on the plan. If applicable, if the Director of Municipal Inspections determines at any time before or during construction that a registered professional engineer or other such outside professional is required to assist with the inspections of the stormwater management system or any other component of the site plan, the applicant shall be responsible for the cost of these inspections. Number 3, the applicant developer should provide the principal planner with a project point of contact and contact information prior to the issuance of a building permit. This point of contact information should be kept current through correspondence to the principal planner until the final certificate of occupancy is issued or construction is otherwise considered complete. A completed signed construction management plan shall be submitted to the planning board prior to the commencement of any site work. The applicant shall also submit a complete final revised plan set, which incorporates all of the modifications made during the public hearing process and any required in this decision. A completed signed long-term operation and maintenance plan shall be submitted to the planning board prior to the commencement of construction. This can be combined with the construction management plan if preferred by the applicant. A signed illicit discharge statement shall be provided to the planning board prior to construction. The planning board shall receive a sign-off confirming that the site contractor and any major subcontractors have received the construction management plan prior to commencement of any site work. All right, construction period. Number 8, all construction activities shall adhere to applicable local, state, and federal laws and regulations regarding noise, vibration, dust, sedimentation, and the use of interference with or blocking of town roads. The applicant shall be responsible for mitigating all construction-related impacts, including erosion, siltation, and dust control. The applicant shall maintain all portions of any public way used for construction access free of soil, mud, or debris deposited due to use by construction vehicles associated with the projects, and shall regularly sweep such areas as directed by the Director of Municipal Inspections in consultation with the Director of Public Works Director. Number 10, the applicant shall regularly remove construction trash and debris from the site in accordance with good construction practice and construction management plan. No tree stumps, demolition material, trash, or debris shall be burned or buried on the site. If construction has not commenced within 3 years of the date of filing of the site plan decision with the town clerk, approval shall be automatically rescinded unless such time is extended by the board. For the purpose of this condition, the term commenced shall mean the commencement of site work. Construction may occur only between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, and Saturdays between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. pursuant to Chapter 141, Article 1 of the Town of Hopkinton General Bylaws. Erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be implemented during the construction period in accordance with the approved site plan and the construction management plan. If they are found to be inadequate, the applicant shall immediately correct any deficiencies. Post-construction / ongoing. All exterior lighting with the development project, whether shown on the approved site plan or required by the Massachusetts State Building Code, shall be shielded, directed downward and not upward or outward, and shall not spill onto adjacent property. All fixed mechanical equipment on the site shall be screened from view from the ground. Such screening shall be sufficient to the opinion of the Director of Municipal Inspections. The applicant shall submit final as-built plans to the planning board prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. This as-built submission shall include an as-built drawing that depicts the as-built mean grade and the elevation of the highest point of the roof. This plan shall be stamped by a registered land surveyor. The applicant shall provide the principal planner with an as-built plan prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy for the facility. All right. So at this time, section 3.12.1.1. I'd like to entertain a motion that the board accept and approve the findings as previously read aloud for the minor project site plan application.
So moved.
Thanks, Matthew.
Second.
Thanks. I think that was Lucia. All right, roll call vote. Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Parker Happ,
Yes.
Vic South Prati,
Yes.
Elise Mayalowski,
Yes.
Peter Mimo,
Yes.
Amna Dewan,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is a yes. All right. I'd like to entertain a motion that the board approve the minor project site plan with the following conditions as they were previously read aloud by the chair.
So moved.
Thanks, Matthew.
Second.
Is there a sec- Thanks, Elise. Roll call vote. Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Parker Hap,
Yes.
Vic South Prati,
Yes.
Elise Mayalowski,
Yes.
Peter Mimo,
Yes.
Amna Dewan,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is a yes. All right. Is there anything else we need to talk about with this hearing before I entertain a motion to close it? That's a question for you, John.
Nope. Nothing for me.
All right. All right. I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing for, is it
Brevity.
5 Parkwood Drive minor project site plan?
So moved.
Thanks, Matthew.
Second.
Thanks, Parker. Roll call vote. Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Parker Hap,
Yes.
Vic South Prati,
Yes.
Elise Mayalowski,
Yes.
Peter Mimo,
Yes.
Amna Dewan,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is a yes. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. New public hearing. So I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing for 85 to 89 West Main Street minor project site plan. Alicia, is it Law in Summer Verna Solon 1993 Trust?
Yeah, that's pretty close. Hi, my name is Victor Teglassi. I represent the owners.
Hold on one minute, Victor.
Sure.
We need to open the public hearing. So I entertain a motion. Is there, would someone like to
So
move the
moved.
motion? Thanks, Matthew.
Second.
Thanks, Lucia. Roll call vote. Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Parker Hap,
Yes.
Vic South Prati,
Yes.
Elise Mayalowski,
Yes.
Peter Mimo,
Yes.
Amna Dewan,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is yes. So that's obviously some of our formality we have to go through, Victor. But Victor, if you'd like to give us an introduction to the project, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry for jumping the gun over here.
It's okay.
Okay. My name is Victor Teglassi. I represent the owners of 8589 West Main Street. One of the owners, Samara Solan, is here, present this evening on our call. Our engineer on this application is Andrew Steiner from Bowler. He will make a brief presentation and answer any questions you may have. I do want to say a couple of words. This application is really very important to us. Although this is categorized as a minor application, this project would have a major effect on resolving a chronic shortage of parking spaces at the site. And we are asking for 4 spaces, and these spaces would be created through a combination of restriping and using existing pavement, and also reducing some available landscaping at the site. So I'm going to turn this over to Andrew, who's going to walk us through the project details. Andrew?
Thank you, Victor. Again, for the record, my name is Andrew Steiner, professional engineer with Bowler. Again, here representing the applicant in their minor site plan review application at 8589 West Main Street, with the purposes of providing 4 additional parking stalls. As Victor alluded to, this is a pretty straightforward application, so I'm going to keep my presentation pretty brief, but happy to provide any additional information that you may need at the end of the presentation. So with that, I'm going to try to share my screen. Bear with me. Is that showing up for everyone? Oh, just want to confirm that's showing up for everybody.
Yep, we
Yeah,
can see it.
we can see it.
Thank you so much. So I guess just so we can kind of get our bearings, the existing parcel, which is just over an acre in size, is located at the corner of West Main Street and Lumber Street. West Main's kind of running across the top of the page as you're looking at it, and Lumber Street's kind of diagonal, running diagonally across the page here. The site's just located off the Interstate 495 on-ramps, which is it's less than a half mile. If you can't quite see it on here, but it's as you're heading down West Main towards this north arrow. There's also an existing shopping complex across Lumber Street, which I think houses like the 110 Grill and Hiller's Pizza. Our site falls within the Rural Business and Watershed Protection Overlay. And again, there's 2 existing buildings on site, which are kind of these bigger rectangles. And, they contain 4 businesses in total. There's Starbucks, which is in this building here. And then in this larger rectangle, there's 3 businesses, which is Unibank, Verizon, and Ideal Nails and Spa. The existing site is currently served by 41 parking stalls. It's a relatively compact site with, again, just over an acre in size. And really the parking calculations in the zoning bylaw for some of these uses don't necessarily account for employees, more based on like a total gross area calculation. As such, we feel the additional parking stalls would, provide some additional flexibility, to some of these businesses and relieve some of the on-site congestion.
Through the chair.
Sure, Parker, go ahead.
I just had a quick question for the applicant, or Andrew, do you want to finish your thoughts and then take questions?
If you wouldn't mind, if I can finish, then I'm happy to take questions at the end.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
Yep, thank you. So again, as Victor mentioned, the additional 4 stalls would be achieved by kind of encroaching on some of these landscape islands, which are larger in size, which would provide the 4 stalls. And I'm going to highlight those in blue, as you see here. So these are the kind of the 4 areas would be bumping out the existing pavement to achieve the parking stalls. And really, the 45 spaces, it provides flexibility, but it doesn't really change the overall intent or layout of the site. This does result in a small increase in impervious area, roughly 500 square feet, which is really a de minimis increase. That would result in a increase in peak runoff rates leaving the site. We're talking like 0.1 of a CFS or so. It is worth noting that really the increase in stormwater flow would be the stormwater that is ultimately directed to the wetland system at the southwestern side of the property, as opposed to going into the West Main Street, Lumber Street right of ways, which the runoff's not anticipated to change from what's currently happening on site today. Head into those areas to help offset some of the impervious area that the applicant is proposing some additional native shrubs adjacent to the wetland, which will help support that existing wetland that's in there. We are seeking a waiver from the EV parking requirements as outlined in the zoning bylaw as part of this approval. And it's really given the limited scope of the project, the additional costs associated with chargers or conduit for the EV ready stalls would make this kind of a unviable from a economic standpoint. And really the purpose of the application is to provide flexibility and additional parking stalls for the existing businesses, and providing EV chargers would just further reduce the amount of parking and cause additional congestion, which that's something that we're ultimately trying to avoid. And also, trying to construct that would also result in additional disturbances. And again, being close to the resource area, we're trying to limit the amount of work that we're doing on site. We have worked with town staff on this project. We had a meeting back in March with planning and conservation. We're also filed a notice of intent for this work as it falls within the jurisdictional buffer zone to the wetland area, again on the southwestern corner of the property. We haven't necessarily seen anything formal, but understand that there may be comments or concerns from additional town departments. So, obviously we're here seeking approval, but understand that we may need to continue to kind of work through any of those comments or concerns or questions that different departments may have. But definitely wanted to take the opportunity to present in front of the board this evening and get some additional feedback. So with that, I'll turn it back over.
Thanks, Andrew. Let's, John, can you give us a staff report on this proposed project?
Sure. So this is a minor site plan because they are modifying a parking area. However, it does not meet the criteria for a major site plan in terms of parking lots. One thing that the applicant has noted is that there have been some concerns from DPW. They're concerned that the stormwater is not going to be managed appropriately. So that just brings up a question that I had for the planning board. We usually don't have the peer review consultants on board and do the review for minor site plans like this without the board requesting them. So that's something the board should decide as to whether we want to get a peer review on this or not. We have not gotten one done yet.
That was going to be my question. Was due to the water accumulation that's been occurring near the entrance on, was it Maine? I was curious about how the applicant was taking that considerations. I'm with John that we should probably have a consultant review.
And then, yep. So that was one of the questions I had. And then the other comment I have is regarding the waiver for the EVSC. It is a minor change. They would have to rip up the parking lot to add the required EVSC or EV ready spaces. So it seems like in this situation, a waiver may be warranted for not providing that EV parking space.
Okay. What if we were to trigger like a site plan review for stormwater, what other requirements does that put on the applicant? Like there's obviously a cost with that. What else besides cost? Like, what would they, I'm trying to get a sense of like, what burden that puts on the applicant.
So if we wanted to get a peer review of this, they would just have, the applicant would have to, or the consultant would provide a scope of work, basically reviewing the plans, the proposal, and then how it conforms with the site plan standards and stormwater. And so there's really no other burden other than they would have to go through the peer review process as every other project does. And then it might just add time to the process rather than really anything else. But yeah, cost for the peer review and then time for the actual review.
How, like the Conservation Commission has no ability to trigger a peer review, do they? They don't have that ability.
They do, but their peer review would only be for what was in the jurisdiction of the Concom.
Okay.
So we could do a peer review together, and then Concom could use the smaller scope for their, or the smaller, scope of the work for their part of it. Planning board would use the whole scope, but it would really be just the same review effectively. So if Concom, I'd have to talk to Judy. If Concom has already initiated the peer review, we could just kind of ask the consultant to provide a scope for the additional review aspects that would be needed for the planning board, and then they would combine those scopes together into really one. We wouldn't do like a whole new review.
Through the chair as well. The other question I have with the applicant, it kind of can maybe sprinkle in here too. Were there other, like, can you guys go bigger than just 4 spaces? I mean, listen, I'm going to Bucks every day, and there's the pink drink rush that happens on Fridays with the high schoolers. Like, 4 parking spots doesn't seem enough. Like, did you guys look at other plans as well? And could we get those peer reviewed too? Because I just think that this, something, this area needs more space, and 4 isn't even sufficient. I was just curious if that was ever part of your consideration, and if we could loop those in, John, to one review. But if this is the only plan you guys have, then
So Parker, I don't think they have room for any more spaces.
really, okay.
Yeah, and I would just, if I may, just comment a little bit on the runoff. So the increase in the runoff is only 0.1 gallons. And there's no increase in runoff for the DPW facilities. It's all going into the stormwater system. And so I'm just not sure what there is to review.
I guess just to that, and again, Andrew with Bowler, just wanted to, again, kind of jump in, because it's really just in terms of the internal stormwater, there's not kind of a whole lot to review, because again, it's more of just a swap in ground covers, essentially, from what was part of the existing landscaping, and then is now pavement. And then kind of in turn, as we've mentioned, we are also filed with Concom. So I know you started that discussion, but we just want to make sure if a review was determined that was required, that we weren't double reviewing for something that Concom would also be looking into.
Hello, Chair.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, go ahead, Vic.
No, definitely knowing the area and living the nearby area myself. So I know the rush which is there, and I agree with Parker that they should have more spaces for the business. But also I see from the Department of Public Works that they are concerned about the runoff. So the question was clarification was asking, can we wait till the Concom comes back? I would prefer they move forward and let's see what they come back and then take a decision.
That's a good question, Vic. I don't know if we can, but we can definitely attempt to, we can ask the applicant if we can continue this to our next meeting. But that's what, Andrew, and Victor, that's what we're trying to balance here as a board. We have comments from our Director of Public Works that's saying they don't recommend adding more impervious area to this site. And we've got the general probably need for more parking at the site for the community. So we're trying to balance the two and do the right thing. Matthew, go ahead.
Thanks. I was trying to find it in any of the notes. What's the current number of parking spaces, and how's that broken down between accessible and regular spaces?
So currently there are 41 parking spaces, including 2 accessible spaces, and we would increase that to 45, and the 2 accessible parking spaces would remain. Since we're under 50 spaces, the 2 accessible spaces meets requirements.
Thank you.
I think I think the suggestion to continue and allow Concom to review the runoff, I think would be reasonable. From our point of view, the runoff is minimal. It's like the smallest amount you can calculate. But we want you to be comfortable, certainly, and we have been meeting with Concom staff, and they've made some suggestions on native plantings that we can employ to mitigate the very small runoff that would be produced. The other thing I want to mention is I know, Andrew, you mentioned 500 additional square feet, but I think when you account for the area that's already repurposed, that's already impervious, I think we're closer to 300 feet. Could you confirm that for us?
I think it's just under 500 where we're at, Victor.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for that commentary, Victor. Vic and Parker, I don't know whose hand was up first. Vic, do you want to go first?
Yes, just a quick clarification. Let's say that CONCON has approved this, and we got is electric parking is mandatory, or can we waive? Maybe it's John's question because
It's not mandatory.
It's not mandatory. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Parker, go ahead.
Can we pull the plan back up really quick?
Of course.
Thanks. The other question I had too was on the, trying to orient myself, like northwest corner near that where it says C grading in set B, I believe I'm reading that right. So there's go back up.
Yep.
So the town put the border or barrier to not do a left turn because there were some pretty severe T-bones that happened. I think it's a lot safer now. Was there any consideration in doing like a major adjustment to this plan and effectively having it so it's a one-way in and taking more space back from where that curbing is, in limiting essentially that to just an entrance and to put more spaces there? Was that part of your guys' consideration at all, just out of curiosity, or not really?
So
go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, sorry. So we tried to maintain really kind of some of the existing traffic patterns as part of this, which include, so I think we included a truck turn exhibit, which shows the kind of the Hopkinton fire truck navigating the site. So didn't really want to make any changes in that regard, which again shows the the right hand turn coming out of the site onto West Main.
I'm sorry, you lost me. What does a fire truck have to do with considering removing the? Just
in terms of circulation, to make sure that we weren't kind of impacting the current layout and how an emergency vehicle would navigate the site as it is today.
So your concern is that if you take space back from adjusting that a fire truck couldn't navigate around the building on the left side if they were going to go like behind the bank out that way, essentially? Is that what you're saying?
Potential. So again, the way that we had the fire truck kind of come in from Lumber, because again, this is the signalized intersection here, pulls into the site, and then they can circulate as it is now, but trying to get, they could come back out and head this way, I suppose, but coming up and coming out I think is currently what would happen today, but I think that would be something we'd have to ultimately get some feedback from fire on.
Yeah, I just was wondering because if you could see on the markings for the elevation and gradient that a lot of the water wants to go towards the street essentially. And if you guys shored up that corner, I really believe there would be less drainage to the street, which could fix some of the water runoff that exits the exit that I've seen before, where that kind of granite circle looking where it says C grading in set B, like that little circle that's right there. Just one observation and playing armchair engineer here, but
I just that this, and I'm not being argumentative by any
Yeah,
means.
for sure.
I do know that this entrance is used quite often by patrons and everything, which again, I know they've limited the turning, but
Well, I'm saying not get rid of the entrance. I'm saying get rid of the exit. You know.
right, well, I know it's used for entrance and exit as it is now.
Yeah. That's all. I like I love your guys' business. Like I'm there all the time. I think that this site plan, maybe if I could go back and wave the magic wand, I would have done it differently, 20 years ago. But
I have a equal coffee addiction, so I understand where you're coming from.
Lucia, go ahead.
I see that there's a requested waiver for EV parking, and I was wondering what triggered the need for a waiver. And because I think Vic asked that question, right?
So our town bylaw changed from the time this was built to now. So when they built this site out, there was no EV parking requirement in terms of EV ready spaces or EV spaces in general. So the requirement wasn't there. So this minor site plan change to add 4 parking spaces would require the waiver, because when they originally built the parking lot and the buildings, there was no requirement.
And if the waiver were not granted, how many EV spaces would they need to add?
I believe 5. We would have to add more EV spaces than the number of parking spaces we're requesting.
Thank you.
Matthew, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's 5 EV or 9 EV ready. 10 and 20%.
So yeah, Lucia, I think from the applicant's point of view, that's a not like they would just, if they can't get that waiver, they're not gonna build this. It wouldn't. I don't think it would make sense for them, is what I believe. All right, I like the idea of I think seeing if the Conservation Commission is going to require a site plan project from their point of view, and seeing what they talk about at their next meeting. I think the community would like a few more spaces, because if anyone goes there on any type of regular basis, the parking lot is kind of hectic, to say the least, at the right times. But we also need to be cognizant of our bylaws and our town staff. So what does anyone think? Are people on board with that approach?
Yes.
Thanks, Vic. Matthew, go ahead.
The other thing that Carrie raised a concern about was traffic there. I mean, what's the thought on adding 4 more spots? Is that going to increase the amount of people that are entering or leaving at any given time, especially onto Lumber?
So that's a good question. We did do a parking survey recently, and we did find that during certain hours, the utilization of the spaces is quite high. And what I think the benefit of the additional spaces would be is that people right now are circulating around until they get a parking space. So that would reduce that phenomena. It would just make it easier for people to find a parking space. But I don't think it would have any measurable effect on the total generation of trips. I am a traffic engineer, licensed in the state of New York, so I'm giving you my opinion.
Yeah, I guess just to that end too. I mean, it's as Victor mentioned, it's mainly to serve the existing customers as they are now. I don't think it would kind of generate additional 4 stalls. I don't think would cause an additional traffic increase.
I do think we have the reality that some people park across the street near Hiller's Pizza or near the 110 Grill and walk across the street. So I do think, I do think we have the reality of people just kind of in the middle of the parking lot waiting for a spot to open. Matthew, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my concern is if we have 4 more spots there, are the same number of people going to be circulating around with 4 more people coming in and out? And have we just added more congestion? And so we're entering more people during those peak times.
Through the chair, I think a counter argument can be made that we're reducing potential air pollution because it's less people idling if they're parked and turn their car off. You know, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other, I suppose. But I don't know. I've already made my opinion abundantly clear and biased. Build parking spots, build. But if we're limited to what we have, I think we go through the proper channels to at least look at what the conservation impact is. And I think there is concern about the water reclamation.
If we're focusing on air pollution, we could encourage EV drivers to park here.
Okay.
Spoken like a true Tesla driver.
I think our main thing to focus on is the runoff considerations. And Andrew, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to mention too. This is, you know, obviously these 4 stalls is also something that the on-site businesses want as well. So just wanted to mention that. And then, you know, as you kind of mentioned, you know, this is kind of a non-starter almost, and just in terms of like that EV requirement. So I didn't know if there was some preliminary, like a preliminary roll call we could get necessarily on that, just so we can kind of be better informed moving forward.
To the chair, can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead, Amna.
I don't frequent that area, so I don't know. Is there a drive-through? Like this, the Starbucks
no,
have a drive-through?
there's not.
I mean, Unibank
Yes,
has a
there is.
drive-through in the back.
What about the Starbucks?
No, no drive-through for the
The
Starbucks.
town does not allow a drive-through for restaurants.
Okay, I didn't realize Starbucks was a restaurant, but okay, sorry, just asking.
Through the chair.
Peter, go ahead.
These particular new spots, they wouldn't be designated to a particular business or not. They'd be open for every business. They wouldn't be specified in any way, would they?
A couple of them would be specified for a particular business. And we've had, I know,
Which ones?
Beg your pardon?
Which ones?
So it would be Verizon, who they are already taking one space that they claimed as reserved. They didn't ask for our permission, but that's what they're doing, and they would like one more. So it was a big issue for them, and they they threatened to not renew their lease. So they want to reserve spaces.
And then, so that would leave 3 that have no designation, correct?
Correct.
All right, Elise, go ahead.
Thank you. Just to throw my opinion in here, I do frequent that area a lot. I do feel bad for some of the businesses there because I feel like they suffer because of lack of parking. So I'm in favor of adding the parking. I'm okay with waiving the EV requirement because I do feel like it would be very disruptive for what you guys are trying to do. My only concern is the water runoff, and I do feel like it's not significant, but I would like to hear from other boards in town and see how they feel before I make a decision on that.
All right, so what I'd like to do is, I think it makes sense to take a straw poll as a first step about EV ready, the EV requirement. If we're willing to waive an EV requirement, depending on how other things work out. Like if the water runoff if we get comfortable with that, would we waive an EV requirement? Because if we don't do that, I think this project just ends now. So let's take a straw poll. Matthew, would you be willing to waive that requirement?
I am in part concerned with what that looks for the next minor site plan. However, if peer review does look at this and says the water runoff as it's proposed is still not, if we're comfortable with that, in order to reduce the amount of changes, I think I'd be okay waiving it in this situation, given the minimal changes that are happening in this specific situation. It does generally feel, I don't feel great about it though.
Yeah. Lucia,
I feel like we'd be setting a precedent for anyone else who comes and wants to add a few spaces, so I would be inclined against the waiver.
Parker.
I think it's a one-off, but I would say if they look to expand beyond, parking to, like, let's say they buy the lot below, or if they buy the one adjacent to expand, I think that, any like large expansion should include, just because that's where we're headed as like a country. But I understand this is a minor adjustment, so I think we shouldn't make huge constraints on them for now.
Okay, so Vic, what do you think?
Well, I'm willing to give a sign off the waiver for that. Again, while I understand we are setting up precedents for this, but also it's looking at the space, the way it's designed. I mean, it's going to complicate things, is what I feel. So,
Okay, Elise, I think you said you were okay in this instance if the runoff situation, we get comfortable with that.
Yes, and mostly because the spaces are dispersed throughout the site. They're not all in a row. So I feel like just making EV ready, like getting the conduits in there you would have to basically rip up the entire parking lot to get those spaces EV ready. And my other thought was that those businesses that are there are, you don't spend a lot of time in them. So I feel like it wouldn't even really be worth it to charge your car if you were parking there, in my opinion. So I'd be fine waiving it.
Okay, Peter Mima, what do you think?
I likewise would be okay with waiving in this limited instance.
Okay, Amna Dewan.
I share Matthew and Lucia's concerns, so I'm hesitant not to grant the waiver.
Okay. So, I'm of the mind I would in this instance. So, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, it'd be about, Matthew's on the fence, so 5 yeses, 2 no, 1 So you'd probably get the votes to waive it if we can get comfortable with the water runoff. So what I'd like to do is continue this meeting to continue this hearing to our next meeting, which is in I believe it's 2 weeks from today. Or is it July 1st? What's our next meeting date?
Rob, it's July 7th. It's 3 weeks, I think.
3 weeks.
Through the chair.
Yep.
How confident are we that Concom would conduct a study that would satisfy our concerns?
I think it's kind of binary. It's is if they feel like a site plan review is not warranted, that would probably lead us towards a site plan is not warranted. If they did, we would probably require it, and then we would basically do a kind of a singular package of site plan review that benefits Concom and the planning board.
There would be communication as to they meet our needs if they decide to do one. Is that what I'm hearing?
This is kind of a unique situation. I think at our next meeting, or maybe we should decide now, like, John, this is uncharted territory for us to kind of,
So what's the question?
Like what I'm thinking is if, like, we want to see what the Conservation Commission says about this project, this minor site plan change. And if they require site plan review for their needs, I'm thinking we should also have a site plan review. And I don't
So
like, that's
they
what
would not
I
get-
and-
they would
but if
not
they
do
feel, if they somehow get comfortable.
So they would not do site
Go
plan
ahead.
review. They would have the peer review the project based on the regulations and bylaw for wetlands. So they could do a review of the stormwater and verify that all the stormwater calculations are correct. But they wouldn't do a review based on the stormwater regulations or site plan standards. So a peer review for the planning board would include those parts of the review because the site plan standards incorporate stormwater regulations. So if the Concom has a peer review consultant review, it may or may not answer the questions that the planning board has. But you wouldn't be able to decide whether you want to have a peer review be undertaken until July 7th, because you'd have to see what their review would be, even what the scope would be, and then decide if that covers the review that the board would need.
So, well, that's where what I'm, I don't want, I almost want to set the groundwork if at all possible, that if they feel a peer review is necessary for their needs, that would trigger us as a planning board that we are going to have a site plan review. Is that possible?
Yeah, I guess if the board is telling me to conduct or to have a peer review consultant review the project, contingent upon Concom's need for a review, then we can undertake that review.
Matthew, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I guess I'm not seeing why it'd be contingent on ComCom. Like, it's the DPW that raised the concerns here, separate from the Conservation Committee. Like,
may I add something here, Matthew? The increase, there's no increase, zero increase in runoff to DPW facilities. It's all CONCOM. And so I don't understand the issue here, honestly.
So
I think the concern is that most of us aren't engineers, and we just want somebody that the town for somebody to confirm that for the town.
Through the chair.
Understood.
Hold on one second, Parker. John, what were you going to say?
No, Matthew got it. It's not that we don't believe the applicant is giving these numbers accurately. It's that we have no way of verifying it. So we're really taking them on their word, which is not how the board usually operates.
Right. No, you shouldn't take us for our word. I agree with that.
Parker, go ahead.
Is DPW's concerned because of the water accumulation, or because, as Victor points out, there's not going to be any like water process? I'm sorry if that was asked and answered in the pre-work, and I'm just not remembering.
So it's in the comment is in section 4.6.2 of our packet. It says,
okay,
the Director of Public Works, the site was developed with an appreciation of the site constraints, and I would not recommend allowing any additional impervious area to be added. The proposed changes result in an increase in peak runoff. I do not recommend approving an increase in runoff. It is my opinion that the town has already had drainage and traffic concerns in this area, and I do not recommend any changes to the site that could potentially make them worse. So that's if this comment wasn't here, like, I think our hearing would be moving forward. But it is, and it's concern, and they're responsible for the roads. So
I guess just to that end, I mean, we're happy to meet with the DPW director to discuss the project and maybe alleviate their concerns. But I guess to that end, it may make sense again, defer to how you want to proceed, but to kind of just continue until the July 7th, until we've had a chance to meet with them. And then we can kind of reconvene after there.
So go ahead, Peter.
Would a peer review that we sponsor or we require, would that at all address the DPW director's concern about the increase in peak runoff and include recommendations as to how the applicant may address that?
It would give a calculations in the difference, like of what the peak runoff could be now versus what it would be with the changes. And that would at least give numbers to the assessment to the director of public works that is going it based off of experience as opposed to a calculation. So I don't know how they would judge when they got the hard numbers. If they would still say, yeah, it's more, so more is not good.
Andrew, can we provide the hard numbers and the calculations to DPW? I mean,
we did as part of our initial submission, but again, happy to coordinate with them to try to help alleviate some of their concerns, because that's information that we ultimately submitted as part of this application.
So my opinion is there's only two potential avenues. One avenue is you can talk directly to the director of public works, and we as a board can listen to what the Conservation Commission says and make a determination off of those two outcomes at our next meeting. Or the other avenue is we can require a site plan review at this time. Those are the two avenues I see. Vic, go ahead.
To the chair, I would support Andrew here that we should give him a chance to go and talk to the DPW director and see what they come back. So based on that, if we can move this hearing and give them a chance, and again, just my thought process of this.
Thanks, Vic. I think from my point of view on the it's like moving this to our next meeting causes no detriment to us as a board if the applicant is fine with that, and they give them time to meet with the Concom and try to discuss the project with the director of public works.
Would if following that, would there be feedback from the DPW director to the board as well after following that discussion, just to get their perspective on what the discussion was with the applicant?
Yeah, if we have no new information, it would mean that the information hasn't changed. So either there'd be new information or fundamentally there wouldn't. If it's no new information, their opinion is the same.
Or maybe the information is the same, but it's interpreted differently.
Possible. So if the applicant is okay, I'd like to continue continue this to July 7th. Are you guys agreeable to that? Andrew, Victor, this question's to you too.
We're okay with the continuance, and we welcome an opportunity to meet with the Director of Public Works. I feel have every confidence in Bowler that they've done a professional job, and we'll try to make our case. And if the interpretation doesn't change, then we'll have to go for the peer review.
Okay. All right. At this time, I'd like to. Do I need to extend a decision deadline, John, or just the public hearing date? I think just the public hearing date.
No, it's a minor site plan, so the decision deadline is 90 days from the close of the hearing.
All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for 8589 West Main Street minor project site plan to July 7th.
So moved.
Thanks, Matthew.
Second.
Thanks, Lucia. Roll call vote. Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Parker Hap, we'll go back to
Sorry, I muted myself. Yes.
Vikas Prati,
Yes.
Elise Mayalowski,
Yes.
Peter Mimo,
Yes.
Amna Dewan,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is a yes. All right, we'll see you guys on July 7th. All right.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate the time.
So this gets us to our end of our agenda. So at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn for this evening.
So moved.
Thanks, Vic.
Second.
Thanks, Matthew. Roll call vote. Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Parker Hap,
Yes.
Vikas Prati,
Yes.
Elise Mayalowski,
Yes.
Peter Mimo,
Yes.
Amna Dewan,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is a yes. All right. Thanks, everybody. Not a typical minor site plan hearing, but appreciate everybody being tonight. Matthew, great job starting us off. Thank you.